Welcome back to I Knocked Up Satan's Daughter, Chapter 4. Jonathan sits in the center of his workshop as the pregnant succubus happily draws a pentagram around him, using her fingernail. Like a blowtorch, the fingernail burns through the Lego floor as if it's made of fire. When he sees this, Jonathan gets incredibly worried. He now believes the woman must really be a demon from hell if she's able to do that. Unless this is an incredibly well-planned practical joke with state-of-the-art special effects. When she's done, she removes her tank top and sweatshorts. Jonathan diverts his eyes, uncomfortable to be around a naked woman, even if she's not really a human woman. She places her hands against his forehead, closes her eyes, and begins a chant in a language completely foreign to Jonathan's world. Her belly rests on his crossed ankles as she recites the demonic ritual. He can feel the baby, perhaps his own baby, shifting inside of her. Then Jonathan closes his eyes, and the memories rain down into him, one drop at a time. The night was almost like a dream. Even as it happened, Jonathan wasn't sure if it was really happening to him or not. He just went with it, as he always does when experiencing a fantasy, and didn't question whether it was real or not. He was drunk at the time, having come home after a night of drinking with Shoji. He had some late-night toast and went right to sleep. But later that night, he awoke to a stranger in his bed. At first he thought it was some kind of animal. Underneath his covers, kneeling down next to him, was a wiggling form. Jonathan assumed a neighborhood dog had gotten in and was snuggling up next to him for warmth. But as it leaned against him, he realized he wasn't feeling fur. He felt human skin. Then a white light came on beneath the covers, like a flashlight, and then through the blanket Jonathan could see a silhouette of a girl. He jumped out of bed, taking the blanket with him. When he looked back, he saw a naked demon girl frozen in a crawling position, like a sneaky cat who had just been caught in the act. The light was not from a flashlight, but hovered all on its own, a bright white ball that seemed to have a life of its own. Beneath the light there was a book in the demon's hands. It looked ancient and bound in something that appeared to be human flesh. "Who are you?" Jonathan asked. "What are you doing here?" The demon girl's green eyes glowed in the dark, staring at him hungrily. The ball of light rose into the air above her head, shining down on her glistening red skin to give him a better view of her naked body. She arched her back, heaving her breasts forward. Then she opened her lips like she wanted to suck away the air between them. "My name is Lissy," she said. "I've come for you." A long forked tongue oozed out of her mouth like a giant red slug. It slimed down her chest and coiled around one of her burgundy red nipples. Jonathan was amazed by the size of it. It was like the tongue of a dragon, but with the color and texture like that of a human's. After she slurped her tongue back into her mouth, she crawled seductively across the bed toward him. Jonathan found himself becoming sexually aroused by her. It was strange that he found even her non-human parts to be attractive. Her horns, her tongue, her skin, even her tail seemed erotic as it curled slowly against her thighs. As the demon girl crawled onto the Lego dragon section of the bed, it collapsed under her weight. Legos exploded into the air, she yelped, tumbled forward, and plopped headfirst onto the floor. It was an incredibly unsexy thing for her to do, lying awkwardly on her side, her face suddenly filled with embarrassment. Jonathan could tell she was mortified with what just happened. She wanted her victim to see her as a powerful, seductive enchantress, not a bumbling idiot. "Are you all right?" Jonathan said. He kneeled down next to her to help her up, but she didn't take his hand. She wanted to turn him on, not make him feel sorry for her. She was humiliated. She sat up, hiding her breasts with her knees, and looked over at him. Then she started to cry. "What's wrong?" Jonathan said. "Don't cry." But by comforting her, it only made it worse. She began to cry louder. She said, "It's my first assignment as a succubus, and I blew it." "You're a succubus?" John asked. "What's that, a demon?" Not just any demon. Only the sexiest, most beautiful demon women in hell are chosen to become succubi. I was supposed to climb into bed with you and seduce you into losing your virginity to me. She pulled one of her horns violently, as if to punish herself. But who could possibly be seduced by a clumsy moron like me? I'm the worst succubus ever. Then she cried even louder, her red face glistening with tears. Jonathan didn't know what to do. He just wanted to make her feel better. No, you're not, he said. I think you're a really good succubus. She looked at him. Really? You don't think I'm an idiot because I fell? It doesn't matter that you fell, he said. I thought you were super sexy before that. Sexy enough to give me your virginity? Sure, Jonathan said, saying whatever she wanted to hear in order to make her stop crying. She wiped the tears from her face and cleared her throat, then crawled over to him with an excited smile on her face. So you'll still sleep with me then? I don't know if I... Jonathan stopped himself when he saw she was about to cry again. Her voice was frantic when she said, But I always wanted more than anything to be a succubus, and it's my first assignment, so if I return to hell without completing my mission, they won't let me be a succubus anymore, and if I can't be a succubus, I'll just die. She had to pause to breathe after speaking so quickly. Then she calmed down and said, Will you help me, please? Jonathan looked inside of her sad, demonically glowing puppy dog eyes. For some odd reason, she all of a sudden was the cutest thing he had ever seen. He couldn't refuse her. He just wanted to make her happy. Okay, sure. If it's that important to you. As he nodded his head, she said, Yay! Then lunged at him and gave him a big hug and kisses. She said, Thank you, thank you, thank you! With each kiss she planted on his face. The demon girl sat cross-legged on his bed with her tail pointed straight up in the air, reading her succubus training manual in order to figure out what she was supposed to do next. Is something wrong? Shh! She said. There's all these complicated spells I'm supposed to do first. I don't want to mess any of it up. After several minutes of flipping through the human flesh pages in the ancient succubus textbook, and several more minutes of chanting and spinning swirls of smoke through the air over the Lego bed, Lissy finally said, Okay, I think that's it. She looked over at him with a shy smile. We can start now. She held out her hand and helped Jonathan off the floor, then pulled him onto the Lego bed with her. They sat facing each other, smiling nervously. I've never done it before either, she said. You're my first time. You're a virgin? He asked. How old are you? I'm actually 38, but that's pretty young in demon years. It's like 19 for humans. I'm just barely considered an adult, though it's not very common for demons to still be virgins at my age, especially one that's training to be a succubus. I'm 24, Jonathan said. It's really rare for a guy my age to still be a virgin also. The demon giggled. That's why they assigned you to me, actually. They thought you'd be easy to seduce. She put her hand on her chest. I can feel your heart aching for a woman's love. But I'm not aching for sex, Jonathan said. I'm aching for love. There's a difference. Not really, she said. If any other succubus came into my bed, I doubt they would have convinced me to sleep with them. Why am I different? Jonathan shrugged. I don't know. You just seem nice. You seem like the kind of girl I would want to date, if you were human. You want to go on a date with me? She said, half teasing him. Yeah, I think it would be fun. Well, maybe when you go to hell, we can go on a date, she said. Jonathan laughed. He imagined what a date would be like in hell, between a damned soul and a demon. I'll have to look you up if I go to hell then, he said, but then he realized he didn't catch her name. What's your name again? My succubus name is Lice, she said, but people call me Lissy because it's cuter. Lice? Why lice? All succubi are named after parasites. Oh, that's a very pretty name. Jonathan pretended it wasn't disturbing that she was named after such a disgusting hair parasite. She smiled at his response. He said, "My name is Jonathan." "Ew," Lissy said, sticking out her lizard tongue and shaking her head. "I don't like it." "You think my name's gross?" "Yeah." Jonathan smiled. For some reason, he thought it was pretty cute. They stopped talking and stared at each other. The ball of light floated above them, reflecting in their eyes. Jonathan thought he could just stare at her all night long. Then they inched closer together and let their smiles fall from their faces. Lissy closed her eyes and wrapped her dark red lips around his neck. Then she coiled her tongue out of her mouth. It slithered up his chin and across his cheek. She sucked it back in just before reaching his lips and kissed him. Her lip piercing tickled his chin as her mouth folded around his. Then she pulled off his clothes and wrapped her body around his, pressing her red breasts against his pale chest. Her skin was much warmer than a human's, as if the blood in her body was the same temperature as water in a hot shower. And just like a hot shower, her warmth was soothing against him. Her saliva entering his mouth was also hot, like steaming soup broth. It tasted somewhat spicy. Hello, folks. This is your narrator here, and I'm going to tell you that we're going to be going through quite some sexy times. So we're gotta try to get past this quickly. And I'm sorry for what you're about to hear. Sorry. Let's see. Then she inched we already read that. It'll be okay. Sorry, are you okay? Let's see. Some awkward virgin shit. I'll be gentle. She's not going to be gentle. That's not what you say when you're about to be gentle. Yes, I want you to have it. Yeah, take it. Demoness, blah, blah, blah. He says you've done that. He watched his penis disappear between her thighs. She lowered herself onto him. They begin the initiation of the sex. She smiled in triumph. His virginity was hers. Okay, when Lissy started to fuck him, the pain... I said words. Once they started this... She started a... Oh, death by snoo. Poor Jonathan. Poor Jonathan. Let's see. Let's see. His penis is inside of her like a captive prisoner. It says Susan Williams says. Let's see some burning sensation. Oh, it's burning his dick off inside. Ooh, let's see. His penis turned black and his breast in his face. Demon Snooky decided to do that. Let's see when they had them together with the tails up against the bed. Oh, they destroyed the fucking bed. Poor Jonathan. Let's see his penis when he ejaculated. And they bucked and fucked until, and she's pregnant. Okay, we can now get back to the story. Then she looked down at Jonathan. The second her eyes met his, the smile fell from her face. "What?" he asked, as he looked at him with a grave concern. "Your soul," she said, looking him deep in his eyes. "It's still inside of your body." "So?" Jonathan said, examining his blackened penis. "I thought I sucked your soul into me. I feel it inside of me now." "What are you talking about?" "When you had an orgasm, you were supposed to ejaculate your soul out of your body, and then my vagina would have sucked it up into mine. Then I would have taken it back to hell with me." "What?" Jonathan pulled himself out from under her. "You never told me you were going to take my soul." "I'm a succubus. Of course I was going to take your soul. That's the whole point." "You said you wanted to take my virginity." "No, if I did the spell correctly, I would have sucked your soul out." She feels between her legs. "But there's something inside of me. If it's not your soul, then..." "That's my cum." "Your seed went inside of me?" Lacey cried. "The spell was supposed to prevent you from ejaculating seed. You were supposed to ejaculate your soul." "Well, it's not my fault. I didn't know." "And I'm ovulating," she said. "I'm probably going to get pregnant now." "Why did you do it if you were ovulating?" "Succubi always go on missions when they're ovulating. It triggers a man's primal instinct to mate. But if I did the spell right, it wouldn't have been an issue. I'm a complete and utter failure." Jonathan wrapped his arms around her to give her comfort. Even though it seemed malicious that she planned to steal his soul, he sensed innocence in her and didn't like to see her in pain. "What am I going to do now?" she said. "I can't return to hell without your soul. They'll never let me be a succubus ever again, and if my father finds out I'm pregnant with a human child, he's going to disown me." She cried into Jonathan's shoulder, poking his neck with her horns. "My life is over. I might as well rip my throat out and die right now." Jonathan held her tightly. "Don't say that," he said. "Your life isn't over." "Of course it is." "Maybe being a succubus wasn't what you were meant to be." "But succubi are so pretty and respected, and everyone wants to be one." "Well, I bet you're prettier than all of those other succubi. Even if you don't go around sucking out men's souls." "You're just saying that to make me feel better," she said, rubbing her face against his chest. "No, I'm not." "Yes, you are," she said. Then she looked up at him. "But thanks for doing it." She hugged him back and kissed him on the cheek. Then she put her face inches away from his face so that their eyes were very close together. "I like being around you," she said. "If I'm really pregnant and my father disowns me, can I live with you?" Jonathan nodded. "Of course you can. If I'm the one who knocked you up, then it makes sense for you to move in here. We could even raise the kid together." "Really?" she said. "You mean it?" "Yeah," he said. "For all we know, maybe this was destined to happen. Maybe we're supposed to be together." Lissy smiled at him. "I bet we are." Then she kissed him on the nose. "Okay, it's a deal," she said. "If I'm pregnant, I'll come back just before the baby is ready to be born. I'll move in with you. Then we can get married and have the prettiest children ever." Jonathan just nodded at her. He thought it was a precious fantasy, but he didn't believe it would ever come true. She didn't want to leave right away. She wanted to stay a succubus for as long as she could, even if it was only for a few more hours. They snuggled together in his Lego bed, and Lissy fell fast asleep. Her body was like an organic furnace against him. Her snores were like the purrs of a cat. As Jonathan drifted off into sleep, he couldn't tell which was the dream and which was reality. He decided the one with the demon in his arms was the dream. It was a sweet, beautiful dream. But he knew if it were actually reality, it wouldn't have nearly been as sweet. After the entire memory returns to Jonathan, he looks at Lissy and says, "I see." "You remember now?" she asks with a smile, putting her clothes back on. "Yeah, I remember it all." She gives him a big hug, but Jonathan doesn't hug her back. "So now we can get married and raise our baby together," she says. "My father even approved of our coupling, as long as you promise to always make me happy." Jonathan can't look her in the eyes. He can't believe that she actually got pregnant. He can't believe that this is actually happening. "Did you hear me?" she asks, pulling his face up to meet her eyes. "Yeah, I heard you," he says. "Then why aren't you super happy about this?" "I'm sorry," he says to her. "I can't marry you." "What?" "I wasn't serious when I said all that stuff to you that night. I was drunk. I didn't think any of it was real at the time. I don't want to be a dad. I don't want anything to get in the way of my work." "But you said—" Tears pool in her eyes. "I'm sorry, but you'll be better off without me. I'd be a horrible father. I can't get a job to save my life. I have no money. This is no place to raise a family. You should find another man to marry. Another demon or something." "But it's your baby," she cries. "I don't want to marry another man. You're destined to be with me, just like you said." "But I was drunk when I said all that stuff. I didn't really mean any of it." At those words, Lissy's sadness becomes anger. Flames ignite in her eyes, and her hair whips in the air like wind is blowing from the floor. Jonathan hits the ground as a surge of power flows through his room. It is like a tornado emanating from Lissy's chest. Two of his Lego sculptures explode and one of his walls bends out like a warped balloon. "You have to marry me no matter what!" Lissy cries. Then she vanishes into a cloud of smoke, leaving a circle of fire on the Lego carpeting where she last stood.